like to talk about young, or we can say prodigy K-pop dancers and what's behind of all this global phenomenon. I like to briefly explain what K-pop is, and I like to explain what I theorized as social media dance in my book, and then sharing a couple of case studies that I just conducted in South Korea, Seoul. So today's talk is not just based on my book, but also my latest case study. So I'm glad that you are the first audience I'm sharing this fresh, if not the freshest research. And I like to finish my presentation talking about agency and the potential of empowerment in K-pop dance. So that's the book cover that I published. And the reason I like to start my presentation today by sharing the book cover is that it is created by a retired K-pop backup dancer who is slightly older than me, and now he's working as an self-employed artist. And I was able to connect him and ask him to create an image, and the image inspired him was BTS Jimin, and the photo was when Jimin is performing Korean folk dance inspired performance. So I think the book did pretty good job in terms of sharing voices that are otherwise unheard, as you can see if you get a chance to read the book. Just another short story before we get into the actual lecture. As you can imagine, that's me. And the young woman is my mother. So I was born in Taiwan. I'm a South Korean and South Korean citizen, but my father was pursuing his PhD in Taiwan, and he later became East Asian history professor. So I was born in Taiwan with my older sister. So when I was growing up, I sort of fell in love with dancing. The first memory of dancing is that my mom taught me Korean folk dance at home, and I'm wearing Korean traditional dress. That's my grandmother handmade it. And I later became interested in classical ballet, so I went to Kirov Academy of Ballet that used to be one of the leading ballet schools in the world. So I used to be a professional dancer, later performing with modern dancers across the world. But on the right side, again, that's my mother. So what I found gradually throughout my career is that I actually chose every single step in my life, hoping that I look like or I become like my mother, because she used to be internationally known singer, voice actress, and also a dancer. So I grew up watching her black and white photos, and that almost unconsciously shaped my dream. So basically, my entire career as a dancer and also as a dance scholar actually started through imitation. So as you can see from my book, that's where the subtitle of the book came from, Fandoming Yourself on Social Media, because I think whenever we fall in love with someone, it could be a celebrity or your parent or your friends or your teachers, we unconsciously imitate so that we look like those people. And that is precisely the desire that I discovered when I was working with K-pop cover dancers. So they are imitating K-pop idols until they feel like or exceeding K-pop idols, so they become resembling those people they used to love. Okay, just in case some of the audiences are not fully familiar with K-pop, I like to spend a couple minutes to explain what K-pop is. K-pop is, of course, South Korean pop music since the early 1990s. What makes K-pop unique and also accessible to the global audiences, including audience from Asia and Western countries such as Europe and the United States, it integrates both the Western and Asian music and dance. It creates almost perfect harmony and balance in terms of combining these two different cultures. And of course, as a dance scholar, I find it so interesting that K-pop has a lot of performance components, and their choreography becomes more and more difficult. So nowadays, there's literally almost any choreography that I can learn within a day. I might need at least 3 days. But it wasn't the case, let's say 1990s when I was in high school, because K-pop choreography was actually way easier and way more accessible. Another important thing that we need to keep in mind is that there hasn't been much positive representations of Asian or Asian American or Asian diaspora in Europe, as well as in other Western countries. So, like the case of BTS, K-pop idols and their global popularity sort of signify the rising visibility of Asian, and it also functions as an empowerment of many Asian American, or Asian communities abroad. My book explains, as I briefly explained, the evolution of K-pop dance since the 1980s to 2020s, where K-pop idols are almost like dance influencers. They use social media such as TikTok, Instagram Reels, or YouTube Shorts to create their own content, including dance, so that they more directly communicate with the global audiences. And here, again, imitation plays such an important role. The book also talks about BTS as modern dancer, Korean folk dancer, and male dancers as warrior. And the theory that I used came from dance analysis and also aesthetic criticism. Another thing that why K-pop is an important case study in academia is that it also represents Asian diaspora across the world. A lot of K-pop groups are not ethnically Korean. Of course, they have Korean members predominantly, but a lot of idols are coming from all over the world. Although they look like Korean, or let's say K-pop idols, they are coming from Canada, Australia, Europe, and largely, of course, the United States and East Asia and Southeast Asia. Likewise, some of the most well-known K-pop choreographers are also non-Korean. They include Japanese American, Pacific Hawaiian American. So again, it is creating a platform where Asian artists and also K-pop fans can create their work and share their performance, which partially again empower these previously historically marginalized communities. I like to spend around 10 minutes to unpack what I mean by social media dance. The reason why social media is so important to understand K-pop is that social media is arguably the stage how K-pop is distributed, shared, imitated, and performed. I can say that without social media, K-pop may not be able to achieve today's stardom and its impact across the world. I say in the book, K-pop is a social media dance of the global youth. I also wrote that social media is a backstage to socialize and also the front stage to perform. Let me unpack a little bit. So in the past, when a lot of performances were presented in theater, because I was a professional dancer, something that made us even more exciting is that where we would be hanging out after the show. It will be likely a pub nearby the theater because that's the place where we, including some of the audiences we invited, socialize after the performance. And also the stage is a perfectly polished version. So we present our stage persona on stage and we do all the goofy, silly, funny things when we are socializing after the show is over. However, on social media, whenever you share a post or comment or dislike or like a post, you are contributing to socializing with the audience and with the dancers because all those dancers are able to read the comments that you posted. What I mean by social media dance is actually simpler than you think. So I have 4 photos just as a brainstorm. And I want you to think just a couple seconds about how this style have taken its name. So on the top left, it's a ballroom dance. On the top right, it's a club dance. On the bottom left, it's a concert dance. On the bottom right, it's street dance. Simply put, all those styles have taken its name from the actual space where it is performed. I'm highlighting these ideas because dance is not in a vacuum place. It is done by us. It is done by human beings, like ordinary people. And we get inspired or influenced by the circumstance, including the space, because space almost dictates what we wear, what we eat, or even how we speak or whom we meet. So, given all those ideas, I brought up the idea of social media dance because social media dance, best represented by K-pop or like a TikTok dance challenge, it is precisely designed for social media. So, as you can see, performance has migrated from the conventional theater, movie theater, television, and up to the smartphone. The book explains all the detailed changes, including the new notion of sponsorship, because nowadays on social media, we are relying on advertising and also the number of the followers. But in theater, people needed rich people or sponsors or even government because running a show in theater is really expensive. But that is not the case anymore in social media. The most important idea that I like to highlight today is that as the stage gets smaller, I would say the smallest stage today, performance gets shorter. So today we arguably have dance challenge that is as short as 3 seconds, but some of the videos get more view compared to Swan Lake classical ballet performance on YouTube. So in the next few slides, I'm going to talk about children K-pop dancers and those characteristics such as social media dance and gestural point choreography, which I will explain, all relate to the rise of teenagers and amateur K-pop dancers. The biggest characteristics of K-pop dance is that it is using a lot of gestures. The reason is that K-pop agency are aware that a lot of their audiences would be using their smartphone to watch K-pop music video. The screen is so small, so unless, let's say, a dancer's face is taking up like 30% of the smartphone screen, it is really hard to distinguish, or simply just hard to see what they do because the stage becomes so small. So as a result, a lot of YouTube and a lot of choreographies presented on YouTube has close-up shot. Having said that, the dancer's face or the upper body itself is the most important body part. So when I say gesture point choreography, it includes the detailed movement of eyebrow, the ways they are using their eyes or grimacing, and even the ways they are showing their tongue as a part of emotional expression. Something that I found even more exciting is the ways they are using their hair. In the next few slides, I will share some of the anecdotes because this summer I was able to attend a lot of dance classes at K-pop agencies, and some of the teachers were one of the most well-known teachers who sent more than 300 students accepted at K-pop agencies. They are so keen about how the faces are moving throughout the choreography. Because of the social media, there's a rise of new job category, let's say YouTubers or dance influencers, and many of them are using K-pop as a way to start their business. Leah is one of the most followed YouTuber. She's in England and she has a lot of followers, and I also tried to learn a couple of choreography watching her video. Catherine is from Indonesia. She's a student at Dankook University in South Korea, majoring in modern dance. I also visited her studio, and if you visit my Instagram, she posted a dance challenge with me. I also tried to learn a couple of movements from her YouTube channel. All these young people, let's say early 20s, sometimes they make more money than university professor. I'm not going to say who that is, but based on my experiences, they are making pretty successful career as a YouTuber using K-pop. And as you might know, some of the K-pop cover dancers actually debuted as a K-pop group. So all this accessibility using social media and creating new job career is further contributing how K-pop is functioning as a social dance of the global youth. Some of the examples is K-pop dance team in the United States. Based on my research and experiences, almost every single university in the United States nowadays has a K-pop dance team. Choreos at UCLA is one of the most well-known K-pop dance team. SDSU and also UC San Diego has K-pop dance team too. So when one of the Korean broadcasting company was making documentary, I invited them to San Diego, and that's me doing a little bit of interview. So that some of my students appeared on the documentary. So let's talk about children K-pop dancers. The popularity is so huge. So in South Korea, there's a new term that is called kidsdol. That means kids plus idol. And they are sometimes as popular as K-pop idol, but they are like 7 or 8 years old. So if you Google hashtag kidsdol, you'll see a lot of children model, dancer, and also singers. And a lot of Korean media started focusing on this phenomenon because it is not just about dance and music. I'm glad that today's audiences include Korean studies students because it speaks to the changing dynamics in Korean society. Let's say the South Korea is facing the lowest birth rate, and it also explains, and some of the reasons of the lowest birth rate is that the more and more women choose professional career, and the marriage is getting delayed, or they rather not to marry. So all those social circumstances, in addition to the high real estate price, simply say it's really difficult to buy a house in Seoul. And all those social factors contribute to children education indirectly or indirectly. Having said that, all those children are so precious in their family, in their household, and also in the nation. The reason I got into this study is that because I'm doing my research on social media, I admit that I'm addicted to social media, including Instagram or even TikTok. Around a month ago, I came across a advertising on TikTok. It is from Hype. That's the company of BTS. And the commercial was, I would say, maybe 15 or 30 seconds. And it starts with like young girls as if they are wearing the same dress and makeup, and they are moving identical ways as if they are artificial dolls, and they are moving on a conveyor belt. And the commercial ends with a young girl who is wearing a smile on their face and looking upward. And I think she's like flying away, pursuing her dream. And there's a link. So if you click, you can apply now. And I found this so interesting because Hype is intentionally using the idea of factory that has been criticized by Western media. And after a few days, I guess, I came across an interview on YouTube, and that's the founder of Hype Entertainment. And he was explicit that sometimes Western media or society project a double standard because drama or alcohol addiction or the stressful life in K-pop agency is not unique in K-pop industry. And he compared some of the Hollywood celebrities who have, if not more, have same stress level or may actually having more alcohol addiction or drug issues compared to K-pop idols or celebrity in South Korea. So his point is that, and if I add a little bit of my own interpretation, it feels like no pain, no gain, gain. The reason is that K-pop idols, although they are using idol in its name, they are actually highly professional artists. They sacrifice their childhood to become some of the most talented and professional dancer, actors, and singers since an early age, like an Olympic gold medalist. So I was sort of like deep inside of my heart, I clearly remember how harsh the process is as a ballet dancer. All those strict bodily training was necessary in order to become a professional ballet dancer. So when I was watching the interview, I was agreeing with the idea that physical training is necessary to make an outcome that stands out and almost like the global level of performing arts. So now I like to share a couple of case studies that I conducted in South Korea. It is so fresh that I haven't even transcribed the interviews. So I was able to visit a K-pop teacher who's been teaching K-pop more than 10 years, and that's the person whom I mentioned briefly, who sent more than 300 trainees at K-pop agencies, even New Jeans. And on the bottom left, that's one of the members of New Jeans. New Jeans is, I would say, the leading K-pop girl group after Blackpink. So when I visited the dance studio, I was fully surprised how talented they are. They are like 12 or 13 years old. And I was thinking that if I start dance training as 12 years old, because I'm 40 years old, but if I try to attend any of these agencies, I wouldn't get into any of these companies or any of the universities, because the skill set those young people have is almost incompatible or unimaginable compared to how I grew up 20 years ago. And I think it explains the advanced educational curriculum and much better parent support that all these children have. The student that you are seeing on left, she has to spend at least 3 hours to come to the studio that is located in Hongdae, in Seoul. And Hongdae is popular for dance club and also college culture and districts and beautiful cafe and clubs. And she was late because of the traffic jam. And her session was over, but she arrived late. But she volunteered to take the class. That was a senior level, and she was supposed to do, but because she was already there, spending 3 hours to come to the class, the teacher allowed her to take the next session. And when they finished it, it was almost like 11 p.m. That means she has to take a bus, a couple of buses, and then subway to go back home. Another group of people I was able to interview is even younger. So I came across this YouTube channel. It is running by a program director from KBS. KBS is a Korean broadcasting company, but some of these sub companies are running YouTube channel on their own. If you click some of these videos, it is called the random play dance, and it is usually happening in a suburb area. The reason is that because it's a public event, the music is pretty lousy and it's hard to get a permission in Seoul, but suburb, they are more, they have a little more flexibility. So some of the children dancers are so skillful that they appear a lot of media and even mainstream television shows. So I like to introduce two kidsdol or young K-pop dancers. So the first dancer was born in 2011 and she has a lot of followers. Her Instagram is managed by her mother. When I interviewed her, I was impressed by how well she is prepared. And second of all, I was truly surprised how ambitious she is. She told me that she even created a new technique followed by her name because she wanted to create a new technique in dance as a dancer. And indeed, if you look at her Instagram, she's presenting choreography, which is pretty unique, that combines a lot of style that she learned. Her Instagram and a lot of videos are self-produced. Sometimes you will see like an elementary school student passing by, but all those movements are so professional. And also her facial expression is, I would say, one of the most professional facial expression I've ever seen. But as a university professor teaching university students, this is something that really stood out to me. So this is a screenshot of the Zoom interview. The interview lasted around 30 minutes. And throughout the entire interview, she never missed the eye contact with the camera. So what I mean by eye contact with the camera, so now I'm looking at this small camera on my laptop. And in that way, you might feel like I'm watching you. I'm making an eye contact with you, right? But it is harder for presenter because the actual PowerPoint is slightly below, right? So if I focus on the PowerPoint, it is easier for me. But if I care more about the audience, I should look at the camera. These young children constantly looks at the camera for me. That means she's been very well trained how she present herself for the camera, let's say social media dance. Also, the setting was nearly perfect in terms of the lighting. There's no background, unnecessary props. And she was also wearing a black t-shirt that slightly reveals her shoulder. So it almost looked like a stage costume. I gave her and also her parent 5 questions, which is pretty basic. And she was more fluent, and I think she might memorize some of the answers, and which means she practiced a couple of times, I guess, unless she's a geniusly smart. And I think she was more fluent compared to how I finished my first job interview to become a university professor. What's kind of interesting is that her mother felt a little tired of, not tired, but a little overwhelmed by all the competitions and the amount of time and energy, because her family lives in suburb area, so she has to drive a couple hours to take a class from a renowned teacher. So in that case, if she has a class in Saturday morning, her mom gives her a ride from Friday night all the way to Seoul. And when they arrive Seoul, it could be like 5 a.m. in the morning. And when her daughter is taking class, she's taking a nap in the car and she's going back home on Saturday night. So it is not an easy job because her mother is almost like a manager. And of course, all those parental support is not new. I'm living in San Diego, which is such a fancy city, and you will see Mercedes Benz or BMW waiting in front of private high schools or younger students, so that their parents pick up their children and maybe bringing to hockey lesson or piano or math classes. But what's unique about K-pop is that K-pop is not necessarily considered a established field, which is changing, that I will explain later. Because it's considered like an entertainment or pop culture, but the amount of effort all these parents are actually spending is like the support that I received when I was a teenager as a ballet student. The second case study is a little different. She was born in 2012, And the Instagram is also managed by her mother. So although the first student is interested in being a celebrity or multi-talented actress, she said that she wants to do everything and she wants to create a entertainment company in the future. But the second student is simply interested in dancing more exclusively, and her mother is supporting her daughter, but there's a little bit of distance. Her mother is happy that her daughter is happy, but that's it. She's supporting her daughter because her daughter is happy when she's dancing. And when I asked if she wants her daughter either going to K-pop agency or university as commercial dance major, that's something that I will explain. In South Korea, you can actually major K-pop if you go to a university that has commercial dance or broadcasting dance major. And her mother's answer was a little vague. And she said she actually doesn't know anything about dance. She doesn't study dance. She is not a dancer at all. So I think her mother is supporting her as a way of hobby. However, what she actually does is um, exceeding the level of a hobby. Because when I interviewed her, she said she sometimes, not sometimes, she almost every day practice K-pop at least 3 hours or so after school. So she go to math class, regular school classes, sometimes other types of private schools. And at night, when she comes home, she watches YouTube and then practice K-pop. And what's really cute and even adorable to me is that she was wearing eyeglass, she was wearing hoodie, and there's a lot of household like furniture and everything. So she wasn't conscious about how she's presented for social media. And I think her mother was a little apologetic to her daughter because she's not giving enough support because parents are managing their children's Instagram because children are busy for homework and other things. Um, I think this is one of the reasons why I'm writing my second book about K-pop teachers. So this is one of the university conservatory school that I visited around a month ago. In South Korea, there are universities or conservatory art school where K-pop idols are attending or graduated from, or the alumni become K-pop idols. The school name is Seoul Hoso Art. It's a training college. And when I visited the school, some of their students, his name is Lee Han-bin, he was on a competition show and he received a lot of votes, but the final round wasn't decided. But now I can say that he got the final award and he finally debuted as K-pop idols. So this is a photo of the lobby. If you walk in, you will see a lot of K-pop idols photo. And another institution I visited is also SM Universe. SM is the institution, one of the three big K-pop agencies. And it's located in Samsung in Gangnam, and that's the photo that I took. I also took a photo with the president and also the vice president. They have such fancy building, and all those trainees walking around the inside of the building, they already look like K-pop idols. What's good about this program is that they can learn from K-pop idols or K-pop idols trainee. I think K-pop education is not only thriving in South Korea, but also in the United States. I'm happy to offer the first K-pop practice class, 3 units, inviting K-pop idols at California State University Summer Arts that is happening within a few weeks. And in fall at SDSU, I also offer 3 units K-pop dance theory class. So I think these are pretty much all I prepared, and I like to open up the floor for questions.